this force that can only be described as somewhat angelic is interacting with you in a way that's blowing up your security cameras.
It walked through the wall. It literally walked through the wall, through my desk, and I was sitting at my desk at the time. It walked through the wall toward me. Mm-hmm. I fell off onto the floor. That was actual foot. Well, that's just an artist's conception from my point of view. Mm-hmm. It walked through the wall, and I fell back. It then screamed, and I felt myself pulled up in its scream. It was a deference. I heard it screaming to God in English.
What did it say?
Other individuals, it screamed the name.
Begins with a Y?
Adonai.
Oh, okay.
And
is that Aramaic?
It's Hebrew.
Okay.
And I only say that out of great. I wouldn't say that unless I was here to tell the people. I'm very careful with that word. It frightens me. But
now I put a negative up there so people could see it a little bit better, but that doesn't seem to help.
No, well, that's just an artist's conception I did. That's not it. You have an image here. There's still images, and yes, it related to the research that we are doing, and there were very strict lines which were not to be crossed,
and so
involving the research. And I've been actually laughed at over this. It's disconcerting being a scientist. But then again, I come to understand others better who have experiences without proof in their hands of the experiences, and so it's helped grow me because of that.
Was this visitation part of something you were doing at that moment?
Real.
Was it part of something you were doing at that moment, or was it just something that
not here? The first time that this being walked in or around me, it was not at home. Mm-hmm. That was in my home. The first time that it happened, I was up at S4,
right,
and it was between work, mm-hmm, involving Aquarius, and there was some post-neuropathy buildup work that we were doing. And so I was playing with Lotus up there, and in fact we got the research from them, the results of the research, because I was proceeding forward with this, actually doing a sequencing, or starting to do a sequencing of what was being deposited by these particles in the environment, and that's when it walked in. I turned around and saw it standing in back of me, and it was extending through the walls, and it screamed the same thing that it screamed when it walked into my home. And I said, "Are you here to help?" That's the only thing I knew to say at the moment. I had a cup of coffee in my hand, the Bosco type. We're not allowed to, they didn't allow, this is stupid, and I hope that they've changed it since. They never allowed caffeinated products whatsoever up at S4. So we had what we called coffee. It was a Bosco type drink. Mm. And I began shaking, and then when it screamed, it was as if I pulled out of myself and was pulled upward in the air with it while it screamed. And when it stopped, I was back in my seat, but my body didn't leave the seat. It was almost like a out-of-body type. This image that you're looking at was taken while I was talking with it. It was doing most talking with me, mm-hmm, about the J-Rod. What we would speak about would be what would be filmed. And I was talking about the beauty of the J-Rod and how his heart was beautiful and how his heart reminded me of the hearts of cetaceans. In this image on the far, did Marcia give you the isolated image?
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. If you could go back to where we, mm-hmm, oh God. On the right-hand side, you see what looks like about halfway up the light, where the indentation is, something that looks like a ball. If you, and we'll put this back up on our website. I don't want to market our website, eaglesdisobey.net.
Right on here?
But yes, we'll put it up on our website again on our forum.
Looks like there's two there. Yeah. Something.
It's a single structure, okay, and that is the face of the J-Rod, which was being observed by the camera while we were talking about the J-Rod. That is not the J-Rod. That is what the being was projecting from me. In the bottom right-hand corner, you might see just a little, okay, just below the dot. Here, I'll show you where to point. See that spot right there?
Yeah.
That little pick
Okay.
right there?
Yeah.
Right there. You'll see the dorsal fin of a cetacean. That is the cetacean we were talking about.
What's a cetacean?
A whale. We were talking about a whale. In fact, we were talking about an orca.
Okay.
And that showed up in the image as well. She's got several images as well as film, as well as it turning its face, and you can actually see its face pointing the other direction as well here, with a large mouth looking to the left. Any direction this being would turn, it would be looking at you. In other words, it would turn and walk away from you, and it would be looking at you. The eyes were literally everywhere, and they appeared like burning embers.
What was the nature of this conversation?
The nature of the conversation was a teaching conversation
A teaching in what?
as to what we were allowed to do now that we stumbled into what we stumbled into,
When
and
you,
what we
when
were
you say
not.
stumble into, what do you mean?
Meaning the discovery involving lotus.
And lotus is?
The scientist in me says that lotus is a peculiar plasma phenomenon from silicate oxides.
And the average Joe in you says it's?
The human being in me says that it may relate to the origins
Of
life.
creation.
Yes.
Something that you and I both would probably agree that should not be tinkered or tampered with, or?
Well, it's not only something that should not be tinkered or tampered with, it's something that if one begins tinkering and tampering with, they go a little wacko or worse. We've had a number of people around us who promised. They would have promised on a stack of Bibles. And one did promise on a Bible, actually as a joke in front of me, to not try to do this on their own. Not try to grab, not try to imitate what they were seeing from the optics train, because they knew that we were not playing games with them. I disassembled the optics train in front of them, so they knew there was not a motion picture camera or anything like that in it. They knew that it was just a series of optics. But what I did is I pulled it apart and spread the optics out, so they couldn't tell the order and they couldn't tell the distances, the magnifications,
Well,
etc.
are you the only one that has the protocols to investigate this? Who else does?
There's one other person, and she's seated in front of me.
So they're not working on
Yep,
this?
she's right there.
Yeah.
Marcia.
Well, I'm saying there's not another military installation that has this knowledge.
No, they kicked me out of S4 as a result of this being walking in. It was one of the nights that Art Bell was kicked off, because when it walked in, when Art Bell was being kicked off the air, I was up at S4. He got kicked off the air because of a strange energy pulse, he said, coming out of the Nevada test site area. That was it.
What is this image here?
That's an image of me being lifted up in the air
And this was in your home during the same event?
toward the being, yeah.
And you seem to be just a
This
white
is extremely
outline.
uncomfortable, people seeing this too.
This was, of course, a moment that I'm sure you hold as an epiphany. How do you see it as it relates to your destiny? Was this an intervention? Was this an angelic transformation? How do you put it into words?
That very instance, I was being lifted up and turned around and told no for crossing the lines. That was, I won't say discipline, but it was instruction. And I understand the gravity of the instruction. This does not mean that Lotus can't be used for the benefit of humankind. And in fact, we've been told that it will be. But in ways different than what people may think. Are we getting near me talking about?
Yes, we are.
All right.
Yes, and it's a perfect lead-in because we got to.
I had some water here. I just
Yeah.
want to fill up a little bit. Shall we?
Yeah.
All right.
So what we're coming up to now is an interesting sort of revelation in the sense that all this research up to this point, you were doing more or less on your own with the help of other colleagues. It really came out of your experience and both personal and what you experienced in the military. And it's now being set against a larger backdrop, one of a more academic backdrop, which is exciting news.
What happened was this. On January the 2nd of 2001, the looking glass was employed to see the future involving Lotus. It was employed by order of MJ1. During the course of that year, that's right where we want to start. During the course of that year, a quid pro quo deal was struck that I could learn about the DCTP, the separation of timelines, and the true nature of the J-rods. And, well, it's safe to say, because I don't want to reveal anything too much from John, I was informed that depending upon the movement of timelines, whether we would go to the T1 to T2 catastrophic, the T2 catastrophic timeline, or stay on T1, that Lotus would be discovered in either 2091 or it would be discovered in the 3400s and have to be decoded. Obviously, if it was the T2 timeline, it would be the 3400s, because not many of us would have made it. I understand that it's going to be found now in 2091. I was told that two associates from the California Institute of Technology would find it in their archives, in Caltech's archives, and an afterthought, nothing to do with Lotus itself, an afterthought due to the brilliance of the people finding it. And after being exposed to the material, that they would have an afterthought which would result in the treatment of multiple carcinomas, an effective treatment. And you noticed I still didn't say cure. In 2002, near the end of 2002, Marcia McDowell, Bill Hamilton, and a third party engaged in a conversation. You can see part of that conversation there listed up on the board, where Caltech is mentioned. I didn't know about that conversation for a long time. At the start of 2003, in broken communications between Marcia and myself, she was up in Canada at the time, myself in Las Vegas, she ended up publishing on rents.com Burisch's Ganesh particle acknowledged by Caltech. And I spotted it, and we spoke about it, and I said, no, what are you writing about here? And she says, no, I found it in the electronic thesis database archive, and it was a big hit in the Caltech archives. Well, we gradually found out that the Ganesh she spotted was a physicist whose name was Ganesh. And she went forward and published it anyway. You know why? She knew what was going to happen coming up, but she wasn't telling me. She had already been told in a private communication what was going to happen about the looking glass and all of that business. Now, fast forward. At the end of 2006, right after we came up with the required Tell the World DVD about the extraterrestrials and the time travelers, which I was ordered to do inside a year, a person appeared in communication with us. I have to be kind of careful about this, but only so much. Appeared and began communicating with us in a public area. This person clearly was not just the average person from the public who had asked me what the Majestic 12 was like, etc. He was asking questions about hidden Markov chains. He was asking questions about correlations. He was asking questions about what level of data set we have, what variety of protocols we've applied. And finally I said, look, let's take this private. And then, when we took it to email, I saw a at caltech.edu.